I'd like to open the Monday, August 10th, 2020 meeting at 7:30, thereabouts. And Amy, would you do the honors on the stuff that has to be read, please?
I will. This meeting is being held virtually through Zoom. The town of Littleton began conducting remote participation Zoom meetings pursuant to Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law on March 9, 2020. Since the time, unanticipated legal concerns related to the open meeting law have been brought to our attention by town clerk. Those concerns were supported by the Attorney General's office and confirmed by town council. In response to these concerns, the town will implement the following changes, which in no way prohibit any member of the public from participating in discussion, and sharing information during a public meeting, and will ensure that all listeners and participants have equal access to this meeting. People that join the Zoom meeting are set to the microphone muted. If you called in by phone, please use *6 to mute or unmute your phone. So the meeting can occur in an orderly fashion. We ask that people who join keep their microphones on mute so background noises do not interfere with the meeting. If you wish to participate in the meeting, please use the raise hand function available on Zoom, or if you called in by phone, dial *9, which will activate the raise your hand function. The meeting host will notify the person of the raised hands, and the chairperson will determine whether and when to allow public comment. When called upon, participants should unmute, then state their name and address. After speaking, we request the participant return their microphone back to mute.
Okay. So anybody got any comments on the minutes from July 27th, 2020?
They look good. I'm looking over at Anna's box. I'm like,
You don't have to do that anymore. I got Kyle's. I got a few from Kyle.
I'm not sure as an associate member I can comment on the minutes, can I?
You can.
Okay. Maybe in the future I will then, but I haven't planned on commenting on the minutes.
I just sent a couple small clerical comments to Amy earlier. That was it.
Anybody else?
I thought they were okay. I didn't have any comments.
All good.
If there's no more discussion, somebody want to make a motion to accept them?
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
We're here second.
second.
All those in favor?
Okay,
That was a roll call, I guess.
I'll do the roll call, Jim. Carl Melberg, yes. James Pickard,
Yep, James Pickard, yes.
Kyle Maxfield,
Al Maxfield, yes.
Brian Crowley,
Brian Crowley, yes.
Julie Rupp,
Julie Rupp, yes.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, yes.
and Sarah Seward.
Sarah Seward, yes.
So I'd say they were approved. Move on to the administrative discussion. Manchester Pastel. Anybody got any comments on that?
Can you see that screen?
Yeah.
So these are the two parcels. Let me see. Sorry. That, this abutter here would like to buy these two parcels, 101 and 102, which are owned by the town, not Conservation Commission. And so the select board is looking for the Conservation Commission's recommendation on whether to sell them or not.
So where is our access to the conservation property?
Can you see it's right here.
So I guess my 2 cents immediately is, why would we want to sell land that's immediately adjacent to conservation? But I think the idea with conservation land is to increase in size.
I agree.
If you have the possibility.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Is any of that appropriate for at least a small parking area and access to the conservation land? Would that be a possibility.
It certainly could. It's all wooded. It's relatively flat. There's a huge pile of boulders, I think right about here. Otherwise, it's a wooded. There's certainly some invasives in there.
Are the boulders in the driveway, Manchester driveway?
No, they're on the side of the road. I don't know if maybe when people were clearing for the houses, it was a boulder dump in there. It's a pretty big pile of boulders. No trash, solid waste as far as I can tell, but.
So how big are these lots? 60 by 60 or?
0.25 acres and 0.15 acres.
So it's pretty good sized parcels, actually.
Yeah.
Could actually sustain another house. Would that be a possibility?
I don't know if that's a possibility or not. I don't know if it would be joined to this guy's lot. I forget what his street address is. Or it would just be, all one parcel that couldn't be subdivided.
Yeah.
It was,
It's
to
owned,
say that if it is sold, that it not be any kind of structures.
what, is it owned by the Board of Selectmen? And if so, what is it zoned as,
I assume it's zoned residential. It is owned by the select board.
So what is the impact if we write a letter of non-support, I think?
They would take that under advisement. The last time, if you, down on the lower left, were those other parcels that were kind of split off, the little ones in the other field, they're just out of the view here. That process took, probably about a year to do all the legal stuff and get it surveyed and all that pieces of it. It was a long, kind of expensive process.
So has the town taken them by eminent domain at this point so that they own it clear and clear, I wonder?
I'm not entirely clear. I believe they were both sort of taken in lieu of taxes or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Board of Selectmen, are they leaning one way or the other?
I haven't heard. I guess I can't just switch this, can I?
It doesn't really matter how they're leaning. We just need to go ahead and.
No, I 100% agree. I think the letter should be strongly worded.
Well, they want it tonight, or at least some idea. And this certainly isn't going to be the end all of the discussion, I'm assuming. Steve Venuti had written a letter 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, for the meeting then, where he kind of went through what happened last time, that Conscom want to sell it, and just that there's a process. There is a land disposal committee or whatever they call it, that would be formed to discuss this some more. So I wrote, can you see my screen? It's an email to myself that I thought might be a starting for of an email that I can just send down to Joe right now, so the select board can at least use it for their discussions tonight.
Right.
And I took the assumption that you would assume it would not be sold, that they provide an important wooded habitat buffer between Manchester Drive and Gap Conservation Land fields. Since the fields are hay, the wooded buffer is especially important refuge to wildlife during mowing, as well as providing edge habitat that is critical to birds and mammals.
Yep.
So I didn't go crazy, but.
That's actually exactly what I was about to chime in, and that was exactly what I was about to bring up, was the wooded habitat. And then, I know there are invasives there, but the trees, I think it's important to try to keep the trees too, if we can, but I agree with your wording. So yeah.
I think you say it all very succinctly.
Yep.
And I'm sure we'll have, I am assuming you will have another crack at it. So I can send this down to Joe, so the select board can have that.
I think I would like a vote from the
Yeah, I
board
guess so
if they would like to keep the property just for conservation, if that's at
I
all
think
possible.
Jim O'Neill is on here. I thought I saw him. Did you have anything to add, Jim, or?
No, I really haven't been up on this project, but I kind of agree with all the members that it should be kept as conservation land.
So does anybody want to make a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion, since I started it, that we send a letter to the Board of Selectmen indicating our interest in the town not selling these parcels and keeping it as conservation land.
Do I hear a second?
Second, Sarah.
Thank you.
All those in favor? I guess you need to do your job again, Joe.
Carl Melberg, yes. James Pickard,
James Pickard, yes.
Kyle Maxfield,
Al Maxfield, yes.
Brian Crowley,
Brian Crowley, yes.
Julie Rupp,
Julie Rupp, yes.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, yes.
Sarah Seward.
Sarah Seward, yes.
Motion is made and carried.
Can I ask a quick question, Jim?
Yes.
Can we tack on to this? Like, you kind of feel bad for the people who brought this up in the first place. Why do we have town land not being turned into conservation land? Couldn't we just say that, you know, the Conservation Commission supports, you know, taking that land that's abutting conservation land, you know, or something to that effect? Because it's just going to keep happening onesie twosies, and people are going to think, oh, you know, we could, you know, put in a request or utilize this. It just seems like it would make more sense to get out in front of it in terms of Conservation Commission supporting the extension of conservation land. Perhaps, I don't know.
As a general statement, you mean?
Right? Or else this is going to keep happening.
I think that's a great idea. I don't know what the process is for the select board to try to make it conservation land from select board land, but I agree with what you're saying, Matt.
Could add that in the language to the letter, and that we continue to support all of the lands.
Not gonna be a letter. It's gonna be this email that I'm sending right now because I need it tonight.
Okay.
And for some reason, I'm having a hard time figuring out how to do this. Maybe I can't. No.
I do want to chime in too that, you know, not all land is, you know, as valuable. Like the tiny parcels that were, you know, just not, I don't know if they weren't quite abutting this, but the other Manchester Drive folks who purchased parcels, I would say that those were less valuable than these are. So I think, you know, looking at them parcel by parcel is a valuable thing to do, but I do agree in general, you know, and I think it's good. I think that's why the select board is asking us to weigh in the first place, because there's some recognition there. So, you know, I do agree in general, but I think that's why they're asking, you know, and I don't want to conflate it with, you know, conservation just wants all land, because I do think it's valuable to look at it. So just my 2 cents.
And I think there's in some cases with septic systems and stuff and what have you, that people need a little more land that's adjoining their properties too. So,
Well, I will also say there's another parcel kind of around the corner from this that is also, someone else has also asked if they could buy it from the town. It doesn't abut any conservation land. It's you know, not really, I would imagine, all that important. So this is I don't know how often this happens, but it certainly happens that people can buy excess property from the town.
Right. I was thinking specifically identifying the parcels that abut conservation land where there's value to expanding that for, you know, every reason that we throw out there. That's why we're here as the Conservation Commission. You know, not so much getting into the weeds on little, you know, tiny parcels here and there, but, you know, just in general assessing expansion of our limited conservation land where applicable.
Can you see what I'm typing now? I think I might be out of sharing.
I can see.
I can see it.
All right, in general, the Conservation Commission would support keeping something like that.
I would just put a hyphen like between town and owned. And an S after parcels. Parcel.
Something like that look right?
I don't know if I would say depending on the condition. Although, are you talking about possible contamination?
It could be contamination. It could be just a trash piece of property. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's times where we might not say, as we did with, depending on.
I think saying in general captures that. I think maybe adding a qualifier, maybe not needed.
I would take that. I agree. I would take that last bit out and just end it at conservation land.
Yep. All right.
So the other thing is we don't know what else was dumped there. If somebody dumped a pile of rocks too, without checking it out.
Rocks can be habitat.
Yeah.
There's some very happy chipmunks out there. All right.
Looks good.
All right. I'm going to send it. Hope he gets it. Stop that. I should have sent it to myself.
Oh. Maybe someone should. Oh, you can't. Sorry. I'm gonna stop.
I don't know what our time frame is, but Stephanie Mullen, Eagle Scout benches.
I don't think she's here. Is she here? It got a little confused this weekend. She has to leave for college tomorrow.
Oh.
So she had to get those benches done and out yesterday. So Jim and a bunch of other people helped her scramble. So I think, I'm not positive, I believe probably 10 or so benches are out in the locations that have been discussed, with the exception of Oak Hill, I believe. That one was not put in because there are some concerns about that one. They are not anchored in, so we can wait and see how things look and make sure they're in the right place or if there's a better place for them. But at least while there was labor, they've all been carried out to the locations.
Good. Three Winchester fence proposal.
You do have informal discussions noted for 7:45, Jim.
Okay. So I guess we better go to it.
Yeah, although the 3 Westchester people are.
Hi, Emmy.
Yes, there he is. Yeah, Pradeep is here.
Yeah.
So at the commission's pleasure, which way do you want to go?
It can probably should be a short deal with
Yeah. Thank you very much for including in the agenda.
So this is, I'm not going to be able to see it. This is for 3 Westchester. I'm talking right, correctly, yes. Yeah, 3 Westchester, which was Kyle Mann's property. Am I sharing this now? I hope.
Yep.
So along the back here is where Kyle has put the boulders and the plantings as required in the, after we found out about, after we put in the deck. And then this green line is where the current owner would like to do some fencing. I'm not sure what kind of fencing or anything like that, but I suggested that they might want to come in and have an early discussion with you all.
Yeah. Thanks, Amy. Thanks for including this item in today's agenda. It's going to be less than 6 feet. It's going to be the vinyl fencing. So I have 2 small kids. Just to have a safe play area for them. I'm just planning to have this fencing in the backyard.
Do you have a plan so specifically where the fence would go?
I think just a while ago, Amy just shared it, which had a green border.
Oh, I see the green. Okay, it's light. Okay.
Well, actually, I think the plan you can see right now is Kyle's plan with the handwritten notes of the boulders and shrubs.
Yeah.
In the back, and then there's the bench, and then I lost the other one. And can you see this? It's got the green fencing plan on it.
That's something one of the members ought to go view, or Amy, have you viewed it, Amy?
I have not. I mean, it's really an issue there. That site was such a struggle to begin with the house.
Yeah.
And then the deck got put in, and then Kyle did, a fair bit of the mitigation with the boulders and the shrubs. So I wasn't sure how the commission would feel about the fencing, given sort of the history there.
It's interesting, and I'm not sure that the owner was privy to all the kind of the back history on this lot. I feel like we have penciled in and squished in a great amount of cover there. My concern where we've got the borders and to add more fencing, we're going to really be limiting any habitat going through as well.
And what kind of a fence was this going to be again? Is this a like a solid fence?
Yeah, solid fence until like say 4 feet, but there will be a lattice kind of thing for the rest of the 1 feet, a total 5 feet.
In like a vinyl fence or like a wooden fence?
Yes, vinyl.
Vinyl.
Oh.
Is it going to be tight to the ground or be off the ground slightly?
Yeah, the plan is to have it tied to the ground, sir.
So this is Carl. I agree with Sarah. I mean, we've kind of done a lot to squeeze things on this lot. It's almost responsibility of Kyle to pass that information on, I would think, is the right.
Yeah, we hardly have
puts the applicant in a bad.
Go ahead.
No, it does say it puts the applicant in a bad position, having to come to the Conservation Commission when you don't really know the past history of the lot.
Yeah, so for the past 10 years we have been living in the apartment, and this is the first time we just bought a house. I have kids aged 3 and 5, so we have hardly 30 feet in the back. Not much, so just wanted to create a safe playing area for them, because there are a lot of shrubs and thorny bushes there. That's the only intention,
Did you say you haven't been out there since Kyle did that work? Because he was going to do a lot of removal of invasives as well, right, in the corner of the.
Yeah, it's been a while. He owes a compliance on it as well, but I know the boulders were in, and I can't remember right now if the plantings were in. I was pretty sure he was done.
Yeah,
he just needed to do the certificate of compliance, and then he had a second kid, and things just got.
Yeah, we do have the plantings, Amy.
Yeah.
So is Mr. Reddy, is a different type of fence, would that be something you would consider? So I think some of what you're hearing from a discussion standpoint has to do with the habitat directly adjacent to the woods and the wetlands that are behind your home. And so, I have young young boys myself. They're a little older, but I can certainly sympathize with, desiring a safe space. And I'm just wondering if there's, another type of fence that, you would consider that might, let wildlife through. Like, I think, I think there was that house across from Russell Street, Amy, the green one, where they did, I think, split rail with like wire attached to it or something. I'm not sure if we have any thoughts about, perhaps a more acceptable form of fence, or, perhaps bringing it away from the back edge of the property and fencing more of the side, or, perhaps looking at some sort of other creative solution to, meet the objective of the applicant. I'm not really sure. I think it is unfortunate that the applicant is unaware of, all of the challenges that, that we had with this lot, and, and therefore adding more, is challenging.
I guess you could also consider a hedge fence, although I know it takes a while sometimes to grow in and be effective. So maybe that's not an option. But I mean, there are some bushes that grow in very quickly. But anyway, just a thought.
Kind of seems to me that maybe some of the board members should go out and just view it and have a discussion with the homeowner, maybe. Is that a possibility?
Sounds good.
Yeah, I could make that work.
You want to set up a time frame or something when you could go out and view this, and also see what the results of Carl's work is?
Amy, was there anything in the order of conditions that stated that there would be no additional improvements or anything like that?
No, and this is a different application, right? This isn't Kyle, right?
Well, I will say the order of conditions is still open.
No, I know it is.
So,
Yeah.
but, I mean, in the normal scheme of things, I would see this probably as a request for determination of applicability because it's within 50 feet of the wetlands. It could amend the existing order, but it would be just as complicated to do that.
How close did you say it was to the wetlands?
I would say the boulders and the plantings are just maybe a few feet off of the wetland. And I would assume the fence would be towards the house side of that.
Well, then it kind of seems like needs a site inspection with, and if it's have some sort of a determination what the board feels is reasonable or not. In my mind, anyway. I don't know how the rest of the board members feel.
I agree. I think we should go out and look and see what we can do on the site.
You want to try to set something up now or do it later?
Well, you got to see when the homeowner's going to be home. That's the other thing, when he's available.
I mean, I can manage my time based on the board members' convenience.
I guess if somebody's got some time to do this, to follow up on it, that would be appropriate, maybe.
What days and times typically work for you, sir?
Does after 5 work for you guys, or is it too late?
After 5?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The sun's still up. So.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, pretty much any day of this week. Yeah, after 5 works for me. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm free to go look anytime after 5 this week, other than like Wednesday. I've got a meeting at like 7.
Mm-hmm.
But any other day if anybody else is available.
Yeah, I also could make it work this week after 5.
You want to shoot? I can't do Wednesday. If you want me there, I could do Thursday.
Is that the day? Oh, right. No, Andrew, your meeting's Wednesday, right? Yeah, I could do
Yeah, it's
Thursday.
Wednesday.
Would it be appropriate to have him put a few stakes in what he would like to do what he wants to do for his fence, just so you have a visual?
I think it's going
If
to be
the, if
fairly
the boulders
obvious.
and yeah, I think if the boulders and shrubs are in, then it should be pretty obvious.
Okay. So this
Thursday at 5
Wednesday,
o'clock?
next Wednesday,
Yeah, Thursday works good.
Thursday, like 5:15ish.
Yeah, I'm home. Yeah, I'll be waiting for you guys. No problem at all.
Okay.
I'll send around an email.
Yeah,
It
that
sounds
will be
like
great.
what we would ask you to maybe do between now and then is think about some potential, like Julie mentioned, some other options that you might be amenable to. A few as we've seen the site, but it'll be nice to see it finished. But if there's another fence type that, like Julie mentioned, that would probably be helpful.
Sure. Thank you.
What was the address again?
Sorry?
What is the address again?
3 Westchester Drive.
okay. I guess we've got to move on to our 7:45 discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
Informal discussion, 24 and 26 Cricket Lane.
Are we on? Hi, I'm Peter. This is Susan. It's actually 26 and 28 Cricket Lane.
Thank you for having us.
We're new to Littleton. We moved here a couple years ago, and when we bought the property, the people that owned 2 Cricket also owned 26. And then within a year, we looked into buying 28. And both existing cabins are not habitable, and they're not restorable. So we're looking to make just one cabin on the property, just a small 2-bedroom. And we're looking for your input and suggestions on what the best way for us to go about this is. We want to, keep everything green. We're, environmentally conscious, and it is a goal of ours because we love Spectacle Pond, and we want to keep it as best we can because we plan on staying. So
You all can see on the screen the existing conditions.
Yeah, can you point to where the cabin would be? Is that?
Yeah, hang on a second. So here's one existing. And here's existing. And then here's the 50-foot offset way out. So basically the whole property is within 50 feet of the wetland. And then
It's riverfront too, isn't it?
Spectacle Pond. It's
Yeah.
not riverfront.
Okay.
And then, they had 2 concepts. I'll just show one of them where it would just be one house. So all the work's going to be in the 50-foot area.
So it looks like the proposed new house is in the same general area of the existing house.
yeah, that's exactly what we're,
Okay. Is there any point that's closer with the new plan than it was with the old plan?
I'm not sure.
Closer to the water?
Yep.
No, that's not our goal. We'd prefer to be farther back.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather be further back and even more up the hill, but with the restrictions with the holding tank, we're limited with the location of that.
Okay.
And
What type of septic so I'm assuming there were 2 cesspools that were there, old ones, and you're looking to put in one smaller tight tank?
Correct.
Yeah. Yep.
And is this, just to be clear, this will be a year-round home or a seasonal home?
Year-round is our goal.
Uh,
It wouldn't,
We're not going to be staying there every night. We live up the street. We live at 2 Cricket. So it's just kind of like, you know, if we were there and just wanted to stay at night. It's not,
but we would like it to be insulated
yeah.
and have heat.
May I ask why you can't build on the other part of the property?
Because of the holding tank.
Well,
The tight tank needs to be distance away from the well for 24, the Young Lee well.
Would encroach
The
on
wall radius.
offsets.
So, and then because of the layout of the lot, it's kind of like a wide V, the way the property comes down. So, we would rather be up closer, you know, towards the McNamara property. And we're actually considering, you know, reaching out to the McNamara people and seeing if, because that cabin's worse than the other two. And would, you know, if we could get closer up to the top of the hill, that would be, you know, ideal. Would be, you know, further away from the water. You know, the tight tank could be closer to the street, and just, you know, things would be, I think, beneficial for everybody.
Do you own the property now, or are you just proposing to buy it?
No.
we own number 26 and number 28. We do not own number 30.
Sorry, can you point out what lots those are? Like 26 and 28, 30.
This is 28.
Yep.
This is 26.
Oh, which one's 30? Oh.
Primera Trust in
Oh,
bold.
okay.
We've reached out to the owner, but we haven't heard back from them.
I think, in my own mind, this requires some sort of a site inspection just to get an idea of what they're talking about.
Yep, I agree.
Or I assume at this point that the owners probably just want direction from the commission that this seems feasible and what kind of things you'd be looking for.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So
Yes.
that David Ross can go back and make sure that they've kind of got their ducks in a row in the design.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, the architect that we've hired, if we could have him, you know, draw up something that's, you know, you're amenable to.
Well, I mean, I would say definitely you need to be out of the 50. So whatever you can do to be out of the 50,
It's impossible.
we would prefer.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah, I think
The
that's,
entire property is in the 50.
yeah, the key point is that all of it is in the 50.
Exactly.
Wait, I thought, could we look at the map one more time? Because I thought the line was the 50. So the house on the lower lot would be entirely in the 50. But if they built further up, like, okay, all right.
But in one radius of it.
and
There
it
is
goes
a radius. Here's the well that they need the tight tank to be away from.
Yeah.
Or the holding tank.
What type of, are the existing dwellings on any sort of foundation, or is this house gonna require excavation for foundation work?
The 26 is on piers. That I use the term piers very loosely. And when the culvert broke like 11 years ago, I'm told, it sustained serious damage. So, and 28 is on a stone masoned foundation.
That and it could be used over again, or that's not in your proposal?
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
Is that anything you would use over again, or is that the foundation? Is that something so you wouldn't have to disturb a whole lot?
We would be open to that.
I'd definitely be amenable to, what works best for everybody.
If you could keep, the same footprint of one of the houses, that would certainly, help the situation, because we wouldn't want an expanded footprint, especially within that 50-foot no disturb zone.
We would be open to that.
But I do think some of the board members have got to go out there and take a look and see what kind of topography and what we're dealing with here.
Right, because it's not flat.
Thank you. Yeah, we would like that.
I'm assuming currently it's probably wooded with minimal lawn.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that is typically one of our concerns, particularly within the 50, is tree removal and then replacing wooded land with grass or with lawn, especially being so close to Spectacle Pond. You get, grass clippings or, other nutrients basically directly into the pond, and Spectacle Pond is already impaired for something called dissolved oxygen, and so it gets worse when you have grass and vegetation and other things decaying in the pond. So that's something we look at quite a bit. And then also the tree cover, not encroaching any closer than is existing, not expanding the footprint closer than is existing, and then we look at things like grading. I would imagine the grading at the site is, perhaps not ideal. I did see, I'm just looking at my other screen. I do see that there's a retaining wall. It looks like on number 28, and so I'm sure that's holding back something. So there are going to be a lot of moving parts. I do think that a site visit would make sense and would be helpful. But I think in general, replacing cesspools with a holding tank, with a tight tank is a step in the right direction. And, so work within the 50 usually requires a waiver. But if you're not getting any closer and you're replacing an existing structure, the process is definitely easier. But so those are some of the things that we look at.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, in another instance, when we approved a house that was within the 50 and they had to keep within the footprint, they also had to do other improvements to the property that are in the public interest. Like they had to do plantings and naturalize an area, remove invasives, things like that would also help in the waiver process.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
The other thing too is it's a little bit different. We're looking to remove two and then just make one that's, similar to what's there. So it's not,
that in itself is somewhat of an improvement. So, yeah.
If you were to buy that other lot, would you be able to put a leach field in up top?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know what that is.
A leach field for your septic system, put a complete septic system in.
I'd have
Looks like it's pretty significantly uphill.
Without seeing the property, I have no idea.
We would ask the people that know the answer.
It's a big drop off,
These contours show it's probably 10
Cricket Lane to where it drops is probably 30, 40 feet.
And get breakout if there's not enough.
Yeah.
I mean, with a tight tank, they don't have a leach field, do they?
No.
Right. Do you want to try to do this Thursday or schedule something for next week?
We're here.
Yeah.
Thursday is fine with me.
So 553 Westchester, maybe by 6 o'clock, be over.
We'll be here.
Perfect.
Does that sound okay?
Sounds good.
Sounds great with us.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Rain or shine?
Yeah.
Rain or shine.
It might be. All right, I'm going to email out on that one also.
Okay, we need to move on. Continued discussion, enforcement order of 5 Scott Lane.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too.
See you Thursday.
I see you've got enforcement of Scott Lang on here.
Matt is here.
Hey guys,
Hello.
good to see you all looking healthy and safe and all of that. Okay, so I was contacted by my client about a week and a half ago. I went out and looked at the property last week. He is mobilizing his equipment. He's got some equipment in Vermont right now. He's mobilizing that, bringing that back down. We'll be starting the removal of the soil material. Once that is done, then we'll be doing the replanting of the wet area. That will be used with the seed mix that you guys approved in the order of conditions. I've sent the order in for recording, so looks like everything is a go and everything is pretty much in order. That's about it.
Hey Matt, are there maybe I missed it, the erosion controls?
They're still there.
Okay.
They're still there and they're intact.
Okay, so there's nothing. Amy, have you been out there? Is there the erosion controls are all set?
No, they were supposed to give at least 48 hours or 72 hours, whatever it is, notice before starting anything.
Oh no, we'll definitely do that, Amy. That won't be a problem.
Okay, that I was going to ask you. I wasn't quite clear what you're saying there.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that won't be a problem.
Yep.
Probably give you more than that.
So can we have a timeline that we can actually hold on to and believe in of when things are going to start and when they're going to be finished? Because I would like to have something determined today.
Okay, the timeline for starting is within, according to him, to mobilize his equipment is within the next 2 weeks. The work on that should take a little less than 3 or 4 days, and then the planting would occur right after that.
Okay, so let's go to our calendars and pick a date that you will tell us as his representative tonight it will be done by.
Well, we have a meeting in 2 weeks.
So we meet on the 24th.
We do.
So we would want assurances that work that is just shy or that is 2 weeks, that we would like to know that work has commenced by the 24th.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
And then we meet again on September 14th. Given what you've said tonight holds true, you would be able to bring an as-built of your plantings in for the 14th of September. So that work will have been done, plantings will have been done, and that will be done on the 14th. So that exceeds the time frame that you asked for to have this completed. How did the commission feel about that time?
Matt, do you think you could have an as-built that quickly?
Yes, I should be able to.
Because they're going to be out there establishing grades as you go anyway, right?
Yes.
I think that timeline is really good, Sarah. Makes sense.
Okay. So we will require photographs for the next meeting of the 24th that shows that work is in progress, with an update of that it would be done. You said 3 days, 3 to 4 days?
That's correct.
And then you do your plantings? Okay.
Hey Matt, this is Julie. I don't know if you can see.
Yes, I can see. Here, let me turn my video on. I'm sorry.
All right. So I was kayaking Mattawanakee a couple weeks ago and noted quite a bit of loose strife down at that end.
Yes, there is.
In bloom. So just a reminder to handle that properly and don't spread it around.
Yes, I noted that on the site visit. It was like, holy cow, it had spread quite a bit.
it's really noticeable in comparison to when we walked the site, whenever that was. It was a while ago. I know it wasn't in bloom at that point, but it seems to have expanded pretty significantly, and believe that's a condition of your order.
Yeah, I've been noticing that throughout the state, actually. Areas of loose are starting to reestablish itself. It's disturbing.
Yep. So if you could, just a friendly reminder to handle that properly, and don't bring it to compost and spread elsewhere.
How will that be, Matt, while you're discussing that, how will that be discarded? What's your plan for that?
That's an excellent question. I had looked at bagging it. So I'm going to have to consult with a friend of mine that does invasives management. I can get back to Amy on that one.
Okay, thank you.
But it won't be just like tossed into, won't be tossed away somewhere miscellaneous.
Too bad the library just took a whole bunch of stuff up to New Hampshire. Japanese knotweed and garlic mustard.
Oh, garlic mustard? Oh.
Okay, so are we all on board with this outline?
Yes.
So I should probably expect to hear from you in a week or so about a start date?
Yes. I'm just writing this stuff down.
Yep.
But Amy, he will have for you by our next meeting updates. So, but you have to, Matt, you have to give Amy, would we say at least 48 hours notice to when you're ready to start, correct?
Yeah, I forget if it was 48 or 72. It was in the order conditions.
Okay. Had a long time to do this, so we look forward to getting it done.
Great.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Good night, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Good night, guys. Hey, have a great one, huh?
Yep.
Too.
Okay. Continued public hearing, notice of intent, Healy Corner, 195 Tehadawon, R07-10, Mass DEP file number 204-844. Construction of an open space development, including tree clearing and grubbing, grading, construction of subdivision roadway, stormwater management system, septic system, and multiple single-family dwellings. Somebody going to speak to this?
Boy, it's still light where you are, Bruce. You must be in Alaska.
I'm telling you.
Bruce of the Forest.
Bruce of the Forest. Bruce of the John Way Trail over my shoulder. When we were together last, there were a couple things that were asked of us. If I can share a screen, Amy, if that's all right with everybody, I can.
You should have it.
All right. Screen 2 is Amy. Okay. So,
we don't see it yet.
You don't see it?
Nope. There it goes.
There you go. I gotta remember to push buttons.
Yeah.
All right. So I was out of the office last week, and Amy had some conversation with Mark from my office. This is the open space modified plan that we had given you before that showed the trail on it. Amy asked us to highlight where boardwalks would go. There's one here, another one here, and then this third one is past the end of the existing trail. This would be something that would go when you expand the trail across to the town of Littleton property. And we added that onto the plan as we discussed at the last time frame, so that this plan would show the trail that the town wants to put in. And if you did issue an order of conditions, then you would have a general location for that trail connection from John's Way / the town of Littleton Trust conservation land up here to the town of Littleton land over here. That was done as well. I'm going to bring up the other set. We submitted in revised sheets C5.2. Is this visible? Yes? Amy, you're muted.
Yeah, still seeing the CR plan.
Still seeing the other plan. Okay, so I have to go back to stop share and reshare.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. Okay, this is, we submitted a revised C5.2, which is the site layout and utilities, C6.2, which is the site layout and grading, and C8.1, which is the areas of disturbance in the erosion control plan. And I have them all right up here. So what we did was we tucked in the areas that were within the 50-foot buffer on here. We also added in the trail and the revised lot line for lot 15 as shown. Does that show as well the grading plan now? Okay. So then what we've done here, I'm going to blow this up a little bit. We've removed the grading that was in the 50-foot buffer here. I think there's a little bit over here. There was some over here for the driveway, and there was a little bit over in here and back here. And we took all the 50-foot work out of the buffer zone there. And does this sheet show now with the erosion control limits?
Yes.
Okay, so then we did the same here because it's the changes multiplied through to all the sheets, and all that erosion control is outside of the 50-foot zones as was requested. We had some discussion, a lot of discussion about, and I'm going to go roll back one sheet. A lot of discussion about, too far right there. A lot of discussion about salt and treatment of salt. I looked into it. None of the BMPs within the Stormwater Management Act are set up to treat salt, dilute salt. We looked at pillows in the catch basins. Pillows deal with hydrocarbons. There's nothing set up to do that. I would recommend that for Alfred Way, there be an order that there's no salt use allowed. They have to use something alternative. That will be a private way. And then for Dennis Circle, I guess the best thing that we can say, we're going into deep sump catch basins, and then into a forebay, and then into the detention basin, which holds most all of the storms and allows for infiltration. And then any storm that overflowed would overflow over a substantial, about a little over 50, 60 feet of vegetated slope. And then there's the wetland replication area. So if we went for a reduced salt use on Dennis Circle, that'd be good. I don't have any other solutions. We're doing a lot of treatment on the site. Green International reviewed the drainage. They agreed that we have size for the larger storms, and we've oversized the basins and the drainage. Met all the 2, the 10, the 25, and the 100-year storm requirements. We've met all the requirements that are put before us from both the stormwater management, the Littleton stormwater management, and your wetland bylaws. I don't know what else I can do on reducing the salt other than what I've proposed.
Any comments from the board?
Well, everyone knows how I feel, I think.
So I can't, yeah. So it looks like there are still pipes from the infiltration basins into the wetlands.
No, from this
is
sand filter here.
Yep, that's exactly.
There is a discharge, a low-level discharge pipe that comes out towards this replication area.
Yep.
I can shorten it back a little bit, but I can't. I mean, I have to have an overflow piece from there, or I suppose I don't have to have an overflow piece from there. I could just take it right out. But that's typically the way the sand filter works. Is the effluent comes in, it filters through the sand, and there's this 6-inch small low-level outlet that comes out of there. I could talk with the guys. If we took it out, then what would happen is the sand filter would fill up, the basin would fill up with water, and it would come out over the emergency overflow here. And in the other basin, there is a very high level discharge line, but it's way up here on the top, and it's a good distance away from everything. I can bring up another sheet that shows that, if you like. But that doesn't go to the wetlands. It stops probably 75 feet away from the wetlands.
There's one thing that I want to bring up. I read this submittal that you put through, Amy, from the public. And they mentioned that a plan was submitted to the planning board that did not have these two houses and had enough density for a cluster development. And I would recommend that the commission require that plan be submitted as a part of the alternatives analysis.
If I may, what that plan was the density yield plan, and it had a house here in this location. It had a house here in this location. So there was a house here and a house here. And it didn't have that crossing because it went across there, and that plan has been submitted to you, and that is a 14-lot development, including the existing house. And we've had this conversation numerous times.
So
they said that there wasn't a crossing with that plan.
That's correct. There was no crossing. It was the conventional layout showing 14 lots from which the density yield, we were given 2 bonus lots. So we went from 14 lots with the existing house to 16 lots with the existing house. And there was no crossing here. There was the same type of driveway that came through this pinch point. And there's a driveway that came through the pinch point over here to here. I could bring it up if you like. I've had it up at previous meetings, and you have a copy of it on file there.
Okay, I didn't know if we had seen it before.
You definitely have seen it.
That plan, Bruce, that plan didn't have a crossing, but it had significant amount of work within the 50. Was that true?
It had work within the 50. It had limited amount. There was again a driveway coming through here, the driveway coming through this pinch point over in here, and it had a driveway at the corner of the open space parcel down towards, that would come in from Harwood Road, and that is right in the 50-foot buffer as it rounds the corner. So it had 3 little sections in the 50-foot buffers.
Bruce, I thought it was more like 20 to 30 feet of driveway length, like per driveway, or maybe that was just the largest one.
The curve down the corner.
Sliver.
Yeah.
Do you want to pull it up again quickly?
Yeah, I was just going to say, let me bring it up here for you.
they had submitted 5 plans for the alternatives analysis, 2 of which are going to be updated a little bit based on this kind of regrading, but those 5 plans are still part of the analysis.
I still don't understand why we haven't seen one without anything in the 50. Like, this is a new development. They should be able to be within, stay outside of the 50.
All right, this is the plan. Do you see this now? Amy, am I up on your screen?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, so this was the density yield plan coming in over here off of Harwood. There was a common drive that came in, and you see this section right in here. As Julie said, has got a section that's into the 50-foot buffer zone. It's probably about 40 feet there. This driveway coming off the end of the cul-de-sac goes into the 50-foot buffer to put out a house here. So again, there's 2 houses in the same area where I have lots 15 and 16. Comes in that way. And then there's this other drive that comes right between the 2 50-foot buffers to this lot where the drive comes in right now. It does not have a crossing here to go across that area. Again, this is the conventional development plan.
So,
but we don't allow building in the 50. So why can't you show us a plan that doesn't have any building in the 50?
And I've gone through this numerous times. The intent and purpose
But
of
you never, Bruce. You
that's right. I have never given you a plan that has no work in the 50-foot buffer.
That's right. So why can't you make an effort to have a plan that shows no building in the 50?
well, I think that's kind of required from our alternatives analysis.
Littleton has a
Which is why
50-foot
we-
no disturb zone. It's not a 50-foot buffer, it's a 100-foot buffer. Are we conceding the 100 feet? It's a 50-foot no disturb, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So one thing that strikes me as I compare this plan to the conservation restriction plan is that the open land represented in this plan.
There is no open
matches-
land in this plan.
There is open land.
There,
I mean, it's
well,
undeveloped land.
there is undeveloped land, but
Undeveloped land.
there's no open space land. There's nothing that the town gets.
Correct.
There's no
Correct. I understand that. But what I'm talking about is land that is undeveloped on this plan closely matches the CR land. And so one of the things that we look at is, the value of what's being offered and land that doesn't overlap with land that wouldn't be developable anyways. I know the planning board is also looking into this closely when they look at transfer development rights and, just looking at, land that isn't developable anyways, it isn't considered as valuable as a, it's not a concession.
Okay.
By the developer. And so I'm just noticing, I'm not just noticing, but I wanted to.
So on
that I'm noticing that.
On the open space plan, there are no building over here where these 2 lots are, and there's building septic systems on both of these and homes on both of these. There's no building in this area at all. On the other one, there is a common septic system here, but no building in here, no building where this cul-de-sac is, no building here. There's a detention basin here, and there's wetland replication here. There is no home here. There's 3 homes in here surrounded by the wetland area. There's 2 homes on this big finger in the other plan. And then all of this land back in here is no home. So there's a 3.5 acre parcel here that's not built upon. And there's this chunk over here, which is got to be about 4 or 5 acres that's not built upon. in the open space plan. You are correct. In the back of this, back in here, there's no building on this one or on the other one. But up front, not the case at all. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 more homes in and around this area than there is on the other plan, on the open space plan.
And then which of those lots rely on building in or through the 50-foot buffer?
14, 7, and 9 and 10. 7 just barely, 9 and 10 just barely. 14's got like 40 feet. I'm sorry, Anna, I didn't hear you. Anna, you're cutting out. I'm not hearing you.
No, I think they can get 13. 13's not in the 50, is it, Bruce?
No, it's not.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought its driveway was through the 50.
No, it's not.
I think that's
it's over here on this side. The
shared for
wetlands are over
14.
here.
Yeah, 14 is the, okay.
Right here. The 50-foot buffer comes up right here to the property line.
Is there a riverfront area over there somewhere?
There's a riverfront area that comes right through right here. And we're well under, we calculated it. I don't know if it's on the bottom of this page. It's on another plan that I gave you previously.
5%.
It had a very minimal amount of disturbance in the riverfront area.
Isn't it like 5%?
No, we were way less than that.
Okay. No, I meant the threshold was 5%.
The threshold's 10% of the riverfront area.
Or 5,000, whichever's less.
Well, 5. Okay, that's what I was thinking of. Was the 5,000? Thank you.
Negative, or whichever is greater.
So wait, so Bruce, say again. So this plan here, you've got number 13, lot 13, and then what? What on the other side? Would you be able to build without going in the 50?
Without going in the 50, 14 would not be accessible.
Right. I'm asking which ones.
I'm trying to tell you. Trying to tell you which one. Well, I can tell you. It's easier to say what isn't.
Well, say what you could.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
and lot 13.
8, 12, 11, potentially. What lot is this one? Potentially 7. I'd have to measure this area out in here and see if I can pull that off. I think I probably can.
So why couldn't you present a plan like that?
Because it would have far fewer lots, and I have an open space development that has the ability of creating a better return for the applicant. The purpose of the development and the purpose of this plan is not to build this plan, but to show that there are capable lots of being built there. That's how an open space plan works, to show that you have capability. Yes, it would require a waiver from you. It does not say in the regulations that I can't come through with a plan that would or would not require a waiver. I mean,
Yes, but a waiver has certain requirements, including an alternatives analysis that has the least impact. And you have not shown us an effort to show us a plan that has homes that are not in the 50 or require going through the 50 sufficiently. And everyone wants to get a lot of money from their development. That's not a question. Everyone wants that. That's not an unusual requirement. We want to see an effort to have a development. You have many homes that you can build without going in the 50. And you have not shown us a plan to that effect.
We have 44 acres that we're providing 30 acres of open space on, and less than 11 acres of actual in the development, and less than that is actually disturbed under the open space. You're right. I have not shown you a plan that has less than that has no work in the 50-foot zone. Have not.
Okay, can you do that, please?
I'm not sure that I can. I'll have to have a conversation with my client.
Yeah, Bruce, that is one of the things, when I had asked earlier about the alternatives analysis, that's one of the things that, you know, we see from every other applicant is what does your development.
What did we see from the fields for the access for across that 50-foot buffer? Did you see one that had no buildings whatsoever on it?
Okay. What?
For the waiver that you gave.
Oh, for 9 Air Road?
Yeah.
So that was a take, I believe, was the reason.
Well, also,
Yes,
they're the only way they could go onto that property is through the 50. But you have other options.
And then I also wanted to ask, it looks like the parcel that's not developed in this plan nor is developed in the CR plan, is that approximately 15 to 20 acres? So what's the balance of the CR land that's not developed, that is developable but is being offered? Do you know that number offhand or an approximation?
The balance of the CR land that's not developed.
Right. So I'm looking at, so I have the CR plan on my other screen, and so I'm looking
like lots 13, 14.
I'm going to stop sharing this and share the other one.
Yeah. So south of lot 15, I can't find a north arrow.
So the answer to that question is,
north is up.
On lot 15, there's a parcel A,
which
is 14.35 acres, and a parcel B that is 1.9. So that's just shy of 16 and a third acres that are of 15 that have conservation restriction on them. And then there's the parcel A itself, the open space, which is 12 and a half. So that's 29 acres that is restricted in open space throughout this whole site, plus parcel B, which is 3.5 acres, if memory serves me right, which is this one, which is all undisturbed throughout this whole area. It will have the disturbance for the septic system out of the buffer zone and the replication area out of the buffer zone.
Okay. And so south of lot 15.
With all the trail systems that you propose, does that all go away?
What's that? Jim, I didn't hear you. What?
What happens to the trail system that's been proposed if you go with a plan new just being shown?
It's all gone. It doesn't exist. Along with the open space, the trails are not there.
But I don't understand what you just said. Like,
Jim asked me what happens to the trails and the proposed trail across the back connection if we do the conventional development. And I said that they're not there. They're not part of the
with conventional development, with not building in the 50.
They don't happen. They're not there.
What do you mean?
And I think you've shared that concept with us. It's one or the other. It's not a combination of it. So I think we've heard that from you quite clearly.
That's correct.
Well, but if you build the conventional thing without building in the 50, that would mean just a house on 13 and then extending a little bit here. So the potential for a trail is still there. You're just saying that the owners will withhold the trail if you do this. It's kind of like blackmail.
No, call it what you want. It's their land, and they would be developing it into private lots that they would sell off to private owners, and those private owners would have the option of allowing a trail or not allowing a trail, but it would not be part of the initial development at all.
Right, and they don't have to incur putting the trails in as well.
That is correct.
So that trail would run through what, parcels 6 and 7 that were on the other plan, and 13 and 14?
I'm sorry, Kyle, say that again?
I'm just trying to figure out where the trail would run through the conventional system. Doesn't really matter because they don't exist.
Well, it would go, this area you see in this plan. So there's lot 13's right here. Lot 14's here. So lot 13 would be, the trail goes right through the house and driveway portion. There's another house that sits right in this vicinity right here, where the trail comes in. And there's a house that sits in this location here. And the house here and the house here, I believe, own the majority of this strip coming down the side. And it would be up to them as to whether or not they wanted to have someone walk through their side yard and then out and through the back or not.
So I have another question about, so lot 15, it looks like the turnaround for the driveway is directly on the 50. So the erosion controls would be into the 50?
This is a 150 scale plan. I think 150 scale plan, if memory serves me right. On the detailed sheets that I just sent you, it's all pulled back. It's not out there.
All right, I'll look again. And then there's also a comment about what about decks and patios and such?
As I mentioned in the previous plan, the grading and the layout that's shown on lots 15 and 16 on the grading sheets, that which I just updated for you today to pull everything out of the 50-foot zone. Mm-hmm. What's shown on there is what we're asking for approval on in this notice of intent. If you want to buy lot 16 and have a deck or other disturbed area on there, then we'll file a notice of intent on your behalf for that. Or someone can file a notice of intent on your behalf for that. But right now, all we're asking for is the home and the grading that's shown on these plans.
So we just had a homeowner in the unfortunate situation where a developer pushed the envelope, I think did some things that they weren't even supposed to do, a lot of challenges with the site. And now the homeowner, unbeknownst to them, is in this position where they would like to put in a fence to keep their small children, safe in the yard. And, the homeowner is left holding the bag. So the idea that a homeowner is going to come back to us to push the building envelope further on these lots, which already have major concessions. And usually, when we do these one by one, there's a lot of discussion about the details. I don't find that acceptable. I think the building envelope needs to show the maximum, and I think that's what we talked about with the last. And I know you're going back and forth with this a lot, Bruce, and so I'm sympathetic to that. But I don't find it acceptable to leave the homeowner holding the bag if they want a patio or a deck or something that would be really reasonable for a house that's going to be probably $900,000. And we're left trying to.
So if someone wanted to put a patio or a deck off the back of this house, it can clearly be done long outside of the 50-foot zones, which are way out here and way out here.
It's in the 100-foot buffer.
It is in the 100. You're right. And I show grading around the back on this lot and on this lot. And I show an erosion control disturbance area. And if you want to put it in a deck within those parameters of that, then we'll come in and say they'd like to put a deck or a patio in. But I don't have the specific architectural plans. I can't make that call. That's why I've said that the only thing that we're asking to be permitted on here is the grading that is shown for these two lots. Now,
can I ask a question? So remedy that has been used before on other developments is to go ahead and put a deed restriction on that. so that it's a little bit more clear as the owners then move on to the next owners or next owners, that they really do understand the envelope that they're presented with. Is that something the developer would be willing to do?
I believe probably. And as those of you that have been out here, you know that most of this area in through here is clear. There's not a lot of tree in this area outside the 50-foot buffer within this area out in here.
Okay.
That's
Julie,
right, but it's not lawn either.
It's not lawn either, Julie, but there's tons and tons of space, and it could be lawn instantly if someone planted it. And I've offered to take you out there, and unfortunately your schedule hasn't worked, but if you want to go, I'll gladly take you out.
I've been out there.
How large a house do you propose there? It's how many square feet?
These are generally the same footprints of the homes on the Durkee property.
So,
What's that, 30,000 square feet?
No, I think they're like, they may be 3,000. I think they're in the high twos, low threes. Not 33.
Okay, I guess I was wrong.
Hey,
So-
Bruce,
That would be what, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom?
They'd be a 4-bedroom home.
Bruce, is it the planning board that's requiring you to have these two houses because of density? I don't understand that. Why, the density that you have around this other cul-de-sac, not Alfred, but the other one.
Density up over here?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that that's a usual cul-de-sac thing? Why are these two houses built down here besides
The density,
not required? In other words, I'm getting at they're not required by the planning board in order for you to meet a density requirement for your cluster development.
That's correct. Under the cluster development, you're allowed to have smaller lot areas or no lot areas and smaller amounts of frontage. And that's what has happened up over in here. From the
Okay, so the
conventional development plan, we brought it into here. The conventional development plan was approved for 14 lots, including the existing house. We were granted 2 bonus lots for not having lots on the frontage over here, frontage lots off of Harwood. And in exchange for the open space and the cluster and the limited amount of work and 30 plus acres out of 44 acres remaining restricted and undeveloped, they have granted us 2 bonus lots. And those 2 bonus lots have been put here. And I've talked with you about the value of these lots being higher than the value of the lots in the cluster area up in here. And
But even though they granted you 2 bonus lots, you are not required
that is
to have
100%
the 2
correct.
bonus lots.
100% correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
100% correct. Not required.
I want that on the record.
Fine.
so
I've stated before, and it's been stated at the planning board that if we don't have the higher number of lots, then this will not be the type of development. We'll either do the conventional development or we'll come back with something else.
Amy, can we also start to peck away at some of the items, like the Bernstein bounds and the CR, where we are with that, and kind of circle back to some of the other things?
Yeah, I don't have the list in front of me, but Bruce, and I think I'd pass it on to all you guys, those Bernstein blocks, the bounds.
Yep.
Bernstein, if you want me to do it for you, Amy, the Bernstein bounds are required by the Lexington Conservation Commission to be used for monumentation along the edges of their open space. They typically are this hard plastic that a couple of you were worried about biodegrading. That's the type that they like to have. They do them with a granite block stone on the top as well. And it's the details that I sent in to you show that it's a rod that drives in and then a second rod that goes in and kind of fish hooks and spikes it in place so that it's not easily removed. And it makes it much easier to bring these bounds in to the middle of the woods and have them set rather than carrying heavy granite or concrete bounds out into the woods.
Right. The links were very helpful.
The CR, that's in the process, as I understand it.
Who's going to hold the CR until this is all completed?
Come again, Jim? Who's going to hold it?
Holding the CR before it gets turned over to the, I guess it's the Sudbury trustees, is it?
My understanding is that the open space parcel would be initially held by the developer, and then they would turn it over to the town of Littleton, and that the CRs would be set up with the developer right away to the Sudbury Valley trustees. There's no holding of that. They would be turned over.
Whose desk is the CR language sitting on now, Bruce?
Town council.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think SVT still had some comments. I think the only thing I'm guessing that is substantive is getting language in there about a possible bike trail so that it's allowed to do, worst case, a paved bike trail. It would probably be something less than that, but we're going to make sure that wording's in there.
Did you just say a paved trail?
If there's consideration of a sort of commuter bike trail from Goldsmith down to the train station, worst case or the furthest build, if you will, could be paved. I doubt it would ever come to that. But that's just the language that needs to get hammered out, that it's flexible enough that, 5-10 years, whatever, the town can get around to the bike trail, finishing it off, that the options would be open. Or just remain a dirt bike trail. But
So the only thing that's excluded are motorized vehicles?
Right now, yes.
So how does that work with, if it's going to be paved, if someone is in a motorized wheelchair, is that still going to be excluded?
That's all that's what I'm saying. All that language around that piece of it needs to be hammered out.
So hypothetically, with this, if you got the Brown property, that would all connect? Would that be hypothetical?
Hypothetically, yes, it would. There'd be little stretches of road in between them, but yes. You'd have to come out Nellie's Path, take a left, and then go down and take a right onto the Brown property, or go the other way around Long Lake.
What's on have you got any other things on your checklist, Amy, we need to talk about?
Well, Bruce has a checklist too. So if Amy doesn't have it, Bruce probably still has it from the last meeting.
I think I went through most all of it.
The only other thing I was looking at was if it's still possible to connect Nellie's Path over to John's Way, kind of across the reserve septic system. I don't know if that would be something wanted, desirable, or not. We'd have to snake through that 5-point where parcel A, parcel B, lot 16, all that stuff comes together. But I don't know if that's of value or not.
Bruce, do you have thoughts on that?
I don't.
Thank you for your honesty.
Yeah, I suppose it's a possibility. It's not one of the trails that's there. I don't know.
Are these bike trails supposed to meet the handicap?
No, Jim, they're not laid out as bike trails. They're laid out as hiking trails. Members of the Galavy family over the years have kind of created these trails. John's Way has been modified slightly to follow Alford Trail and then stay on the open space parcel right here in this corner. But the rest of this trail is pretty much right on its layout, right up in a terminus right about here. And and Nellie's path terminated here. So those are just the trails. They're not bike trails. The only bike trail that has been talked about is that the Trails Committee wanted to be able to connect from the Littleton Conservation Trust across here to the town of Littleton to eventually, I think, down towards the train station. But there's no trail at all there right now. So it's a bit off from a bike trail. And there's actually no trail, to my knowledge, on the Conservation Trust piece either.
Correct. Yeah, so the bike trail, whatever, it was never discussed that the applicant would build that. That was just some future
Correct.
In planning.
I guess maybe I was using the wrong terminology. I should have said just a footpath, foot trail. See, I was thinking about the crossings. Would they be handicap accessible or?
I don't believe so. I mean, eventually, if we wanted them to be, that would be up to the town and SVT. But what the applicant is doing is basically kind of formalizing the old trail that was there and putting in little low boardwalks to get across 3 wetland crossings.
2 wetland crossings. The third one down here is after the trail ends to the where you want to build a new trail, or the town wants to build a new trail.
So where are we at this?
So I want to go back to the salt issue for a minute. In my opinion, the reason I brought it up is because I recognize that you cannot remediate salts and chloride in groundwater once it's there. And so for me, having the infiltration basins from all the road runoff discharge to the created wetlands, it is a non-starter and needs to be modified somehow. The discharge needs to go elsewhere. And I still have concerns remaining about the crossing, although it sounds like we can do a no salt area in that area. I think the reality of saying no salt on the development in general it's unenforceable. It puts a ton of work on Amy, and it's just not realistic. And so therefore I feel very strongly that we should not be using roadway drainage at all to feed the mitigation areas.
So what have you done in all the other previous developments that have come in that have drainage? Because they all have drainage, and the drainage all runs downhill and eventually gets to the wetlands.
It does eventually, but we have not had a site, to my knowledge, seeking a waiver for a crossing that is using roadway runoff to create water for, or to contribute water for a wetland mitigation area. I feel we're already making concessions, if a waiver is granted for the crossing. We have a major issue with sodium and chloride in our groundwater and our surface water in the area. Our water department provided some data that indicates the concentrations are rapidly increasing, and it's due to roadway salt. And so therefore, my position is that we need to consider every instance, and that's why this project is before us, because there's disturbance within the 50-foot buffer zone, or within the 100-foot, but the 50-foot no disturb is to help protect the resources. And so for me, using roadway runoff, which, who knows, a few years down the road, if the no salt is going to be honored or not, I feel as though that creates a lot of work for Amy to try to enforce it. I don't feel it's realistic. And so therefore, I would like to see the infiltration basin discharge elsewhere and not in the mitigation areas that are being created.
Anybody else got any opinions?
Well, I'm not a voting member, but I will recommend to the commission that they require a plan that doesn't build in the 50, because it is possible. And the only reason they have these two houses or a building in the 50 is optional.
So, and following up with Julie, are those created wetland areas constructed dependent on that road runoff to
Not at
feed
all.
them?
Not at all. This one down here, this is 2,300 or 400 square feet shown, of which there's 900 square feet that's going to be proposed within this area around the trees. Then this low area is not a problem. It's right down adjacent to that. And this area right over here, whoops, this area here is like 3,200 square feet. It's at the toe of the slope. It's at the upland edge of this wetlands. It's at the be dug down into the groundwater and the breakout coming off of the whole meadow and the whole developed area up above. So no, they're not. And I can, I don't know where to put the things because they're all going to go towards the wetlands. I can draw the thing off to the side somewhere, but it's still headed towards wetlands. It all goes towards wetlands eventually. You can keep it from going into the proposed wetland replication areas, but it's going towards a wetland eventually. And I'd be really, there's not a subdivision out there that hasn't been developed that doesn't have a drainage system that discharges towards wetlands, unless there are no wetlands at all on the site, and then it discharges towards wetlands that are off the site.
And so this is.
Do you have a sense of how far back you could pull the discharge from the sand filter?
Yeah, I could probably bring it back half that distance, so about 30 feet away from the edge of that area. And as I said, the wetland replication is going to be all down here at the lower edge of this. We just agreed when we were out there to block this whole area so that we made certain that there was plenty of space to put the wetlands in around the 3 or 4 large pine trees that are in that space. And then
and do you know at what storm the other basin would discharge?
I don't believe it does until the 100-year storm.
By pulling it back, would it make more of a spreader, so it spread the water over a larger area?
This back here, yes. Just because it wouldn't go to anywhere. I mean, right now it's going to spread over a large area across through here. So, but I can pull it back. Again, the replication is going to be down here a long distance away.
Do you need that water to establish that replication?
No.
Bruce, you also might want to check in with Oxbow because they might have some bright ideas on some of this.
I gave a call to them. They said, yeah, nothing.
Now, does any of this roadway get turned over to the town for maintenance?
Not Alfred Trail, not this drive here, but Dennis Circle, the upper part does.
So they'd be after salt and the upper part at some point.
At some point, most likely they would put salt on Dennis Circle. That's correct. Fairly limited amount. It's not a steep road. It's 5 to 3% at the steep points. It's half of a wheelchair ramp.
Bruce, do all the driveways 2, 15, and 16, does that all go back to the sand filter, or is it just the shared portion of it?
No, this, let's see here. There's a high point here. So
Okay.
From this high point goes back, and from up above all the way down comes to it. These points out here just discharge off the overland flow.
And if you did say no salt on there, does that mean it's going to be sand?
Sand or the salt alternative, calcium stuff, those white beads.
But these people with that long driveway are responsible for their own snow plowing, removing, and all that, right?
That is correct.
Right. And so the concern is having the information, number one, get communicated to them, having them care enough to oversee the, landscaping company who's going to conduct the work, and then the work for Amy to enforce it. It's just been real problematic historically from an enforcement and an implementation standpoint.
Well, we make it an order of conditions that goes into the deed.
And the O&M itself can be attached to the deed.
Right, and the O&M can be attached, and we provided you with the individual O&Ms for this section as well. There's an individual O&M for this drive.
Yep, I saw the O&M. They just tend not to be successful. I've seen lots of problems with, I understand the good faith effort, and, I've written O&Ms and, had facilities completely ignore them.
Yeah.
I'm just, expressing my concern about the reality of the implementation and the enforcement. And then once this is contaminated, there's really nothing we can do about it.
So whoever buys these lots is going to be responsible for maintaining that basin too?
Just this small sand filter down here and the stone infiltration trenches along the side of the driveway. This other basin is part of the homeowners association for the whole development.
And why is the homeowners association, why is that excluded from the homeowners association?
Why is what excluded? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, the sand filter.
The sand filter is only servicing this drive, so it's only the homeowners association for 15 and 16 that are responsible for that. But they are also responsible, along with the other homes up above, for the other basin.
Is it possible to just have that lumped in with the homeowners association? It just seems like there would be a greater chance for success. I understand why you broke it out, but from an implementation standpoint, it seems like a homeowners association would be a better spot to park it versus a homeowner who may not know better, might be busy, may not read everything.
It's still a homeowners association. It's just 2 homeowners versus whatever the other number is, 16.
Because the other 14 are going to pay for that.
I understand that. And that's, that's why it's problematic. That's why the crossing is problematic. And that's why we're here today discussing it.
I can talk to the applicant and their attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's even, in my mind, not worthwhile talking about these 2 houses. If, as we said, he's got 14 houses and these are optional. These 2 houses are optional. The crossing is an optional part of this development.
Anybody else got any opinions?
No, I think we've had good dialogue. I think we need to keep going.
And I think there might be some public out there who might want to comment.
All right, let them in.
Did anybody want to raise their hand? I can't see you all at once.
I just did.
Mr. Beam?
Thank you. Brian Beam, 271 Harvard. I wonder if the commission is aware there's an appeal in place now to the planning board's decision of this. And I guess your time is really valuable and you're spending a lot of time on this, which I appreciate, but seems to me you might want to wait until that appeal is settled before you make these decisions, because that could change things as well. Just a thought. Also, I just want to ask a question about what the commission requested of the applicant. I think it was last fall, about Green International evaluating the plan based on the effect on the vernal pool, the septic on the vernal pool and whatnot. Did you request something of Green International, and was that done, if you did?
Again, the drainage does not flow anywhere near the vernal pool. It flows in the opposite direction. The drainage does not flow near the vernal pool.
I didn't ask Mr. Ringwald. I just asked the commission if you requested a Green International evaluation of it, and was it done?
So my recollection, and I don't have notes to that effect, but we as a commission passed, Amy, I believe, like notes or questions through to the planning board for Green International to look at. And my understanding was between the Board of Health and the stormwater that assessment was complete. But that was a long time ago, and I don't have anything in front of me to adequately answer that. I do know I asked about it at one point, and I thought it had been settled, but I honestly don't know for sure. I would need to go back and look. But I thought it was settled through some sort of Board of Health process versus Green.
Why would that happen? Isn't that the role of Green, to be an independent outside voice? And our information, frankly, there are a number of abutters that have, as you can see, have had an issue with this project, and I think our questions and our issues are valid, and I appreciate this commission taking them more seriously than the previous board, frankly. So I appreciate that. But we truly, as abutters, and well, I'll only speak for myself, but I can guarantee you other abutters feel this way, feel that there's been some special treatment to this applicant because of who this applicant is, and that's patently unfair. So if you requested an evaluation by, the independent engineering firm, which is their role, and it didn't happen because the applicant didn't pay the bill, that's unacceptable. And I think the commission should find that unacceptable. So
what is also unacceptable,
that's what happened, but that's what we suspect.
What is also unacceptable is saying something that isn't true. The bill has been paid, everybody's been paid, there's been no preferential treatment. If anything, it's been quite the opposite. We were over 18 months before the planning board, and we've been before this commission for a long time.
It was
far longer than any other project.
It was paid 9 months after it was supposed to, and Green didn't want to.
Okay, gentlemen, this is out of line. So, Chairman, if you'd like to.
I've said enough. Thank you. Thank you to the committee.
Amy, is there anyone else that wishes to be heard this evening?
I can't see everybody at once, but I don't see any raised hands. Do I?
Sarah, I'd like to raise a point of clarification too, if I may, about the application in front of us. Although the application has been in front of us for quite some time, it did stall for several months due to planning board hearings and questions regarding zoning. And so our hearings took several month hiatus.
That is correct.
So I just wanted to make a point of clarity on that.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I feel we had a stop-start, and it was, I think the last few meetings we've been circling back around a lot, so I think I feel as though we're finally kind of getting back up to speed thoroughly and really starting to go back and delve into the minutia. Bruce, would you like to continue this?
Sure.
Okay.
Amy, do you mind recirculating the green report to us? I mean, I can try to find it, but if you have fingers on it, I think we should. That we haven't seen that for months,
Sure,
so
yeah.
it seems like we should just take a peek back at that.
What does the commission want to see? I think the first thing that needs to be decided is whether or not this is going to meet the standard for a waiver, which will mostly be the public interest. Is it consistent with the intent and purpose of the bylaw? And is it the least environmental damaging practical alternative? And of those two, I think probably the public interest and the least environmental damaging practical alternative are the two sticking points right now. So we are kind of going around in circles. Do you want another alternative from the applicant that shows no work in the 50-foot? And then once that is shown, say why that is not feasible? Is that where you want to go? And or a comparison of the conventional and the open space plans and how much 50-foot work there is, how much work in the 100-foot buffer zone is, break it down by categories. A fair bit of work for the engineers, but it's an engineering exercise. I just want to make sure you get what you want to see, so we don't.
Well, I do feel, and that would be wonderful to have all of the above. I feel as though we have been asking for a lot of that for quite a long time.
Yep, I would agree.
So getting back to Amy just gave you some options of what you would like to request. If you want to just let her know what everyone's interests are, I think to give Bruce guidance. And at times I think this guidance is the same message, but perhaps it's a little louder now.
And I kind of tend to think that once you get past that, then we can get into the real issues about the mitigation and the drainage and the salt as the next layer.
Yep.
If that sounds right.
Okay. What would everyone like to see from Bruce going forward? All of the above, or would you like to have it prioritized?
I mean, I think in order to make our determination about the least environmentally damaging practical alternative, we do need to see a plan with nothing in the 50.
But is that practical though? It's the question of whether it's practical.
That would be your second step.
Right. You need to explain that to us. And in order that, I don't feel as though we have a clear explanation of why that's not practical.
Anybody else got any comments?
I would second Julie's statements.
Yeah, I agree with Julie as well. I guess the only question I have now is, Amy, you did send.
Oh,
Kyle,
you're muted.
What was that? Sorry. Amy, you sent an email that I don't know who it was from. I don't know the gentleman, but Mr. Mark Gallagher with concerns, public concerns and whatnot. And that did mention the appeal. Is this something you know of that could potentially throw a huge wrench in all these plans and all these discussions that we're having right now?
Yeah, it was an appeal on the planning board decision. It was, I don't know what, 10 or 14 pages, something like that, kind of repetitive. And it could change the plans, it could change nothing. I tend to think that the commission can decide to move ahead that is in front of you, that the applicant is in front of you. And if ultimately it changes after an order condition potentially is issued, they'd have to come back for the revisions.
Correct.
Certainly, I imagine the applicant's consideration is also that if there's going to be appeal in the order conditions, let them both run at the same time rather than, wait for the planning board one to be finished and then start the order conditions process. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that we can carry on and look at what is presented in front of us and not be tied. As we know, things can be held up for very long times in appeals.
And it's not dissimilar, on only a much different scale than making a Conscom decision before Board of Health has made their decision on a septic system or vice versa.
Right.
It's the applicant's risk that they might have to come back.
Excuse me, Amy. Doug Peak. Unfortunately, there's no raised hand on my screen, so I wasn't able to find it. I just wanted to quickly mention that there is another almost no 50 option, and that's the open space development. And instead of putting 15 and 16 in, you put a house in just before we cross the wetlands. And so you actually go from 16 down to 15 houses, and you just barely nick, and maybe not even nick, the 50 zone buffer. So I just wanted to throw that one out. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Doug.
So Amy, they've asked for an to carry on, so just to give a date and time for the next meeting, maybe? So we can move on from this hearing?
Continue to August 24th. Bruce, time to be determined?
No, I've got a family emergency. I'm flying out tomorrow morning. I'll be gone for the rest of the week. I would say we have to move to your meeting in September.
September 14th?
That's your next meeting.
Okay. Sorry to hear that, Bruce.
Thank you.
So you've pretty much got an understanding, Amy, of where we're going with this now?
I believe so, yes.
I believe so.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
So what do we have left? We have 54 Brew Street? That's being continued.
Yeah, Chuck Karen is not back from his family emergency. So that's continued now to September 14th. And I'm going to try to get hold of Chuck and see if he can get a report out, because it was in process when he was called away.
What about any of our other official businesses, for anything we need to touch on in the?
There's two other things I want to add to it, but what's on there, the Lakeshore Drive, those mini fishing piers, they're the little, I don't know, maybe 8-foot segments along Lakeshore Drive that are in fairly bad shape. A scout was asking if maybe he could replace those as an Eagle Scout project. It's going to be a little weird because the water levels are down, and theoretically will be maybe not as bad as they are right now, but will be lower than they have been in the past.
Also the issue in that area, and the reason why they're decrepit in the first place, is the ice that tends to build up along that shore and really scour and move everything. So if they can design it so that they're removable, like they can be pulled back every winter.
Yeah, Dustin mentioned that as a possibility.
Yeah.
And weren't those on like town property, and we were kind of a little wishy-washy as to like whether or not we wanted those to continue, or?
That's why I brought it up. They are, I had the pictures, I don't have them with me right now. There is a little bit of erosion, certainly under one of them along the bank, and it's probably from the fetch in the wintertime when the water was high. Theoretically, the water will be kept lower now. But yeah, there's that whole issue too.
Well, they were really popular. People used them all the time for fishing. But you're right. I mean, when the water is lower, it's going to be harder. They're going to have to be longer to reach the same access point, I think.
Yeah, which becomes a permitting discussion. I don't know if you've all seen the fishing pier that the rec department put in with their leftover piers. It goes out further. It's that L shape with your approval, which I imagine accomplishes the same thing, only it's in one spot. So
So,
perfectly happy to redirect these guys to doing some other work, but I don't know how anybody felt about it.
Seems like people like the recreation and the use of the lake. It seems kind of too bad to prohibit them from being able to do some of these things.
I think it would definitely be appreciated, but difficult to do in a lasting way, I would think.
Well,
Can you see my screen?
how long have some of these been there?
Say again, James?
I don't know how long they've been in place. You can see on this bottom one, the erosion underneath.
Yeah, those are pretty
Can
bad.
they put in what Parks put in? That looked great.
Parks put that in, and Parks is willing to take it in and out. Well, let me start there.
So just get the Boy Scouts to do that.
Take it in and out every year. And this thing is great, especially because now the water is kind of further away from the shoreline.
Right.
I guess it seems to me if they want to replace those, which are smaller areas, which would mean fewer people on the L-shaped thing that Park and Rec put in. I mean, obviously that they would need to be slightly larger, but if they want, I guess I feel I'd agree with Jim as far as, you know, letting people recreate at the lake. And then particularly right now, having multiple places where people can do that. I have seen people fishing on these. So I guess I would support a project to replace them and, you know, perhaps extend them a little so that they're not standing in the loosestrife and the cattails to fish.
If we start getting rains again, the lake could very well come up some too.
It could, for sure.
I support it. I mean, nothing lasts forever. Let the kids and let the people just go and fish, and we want them to be able to be there and enjoy it. So
Yeah, see what you can come up with.
I agree.
All right. The meadow mowing, I assume we'll put that off. I don't know if anybody wanted to do anything on the leash law update or put that off, Julie, or?
Well, I think we could just provide a really quick update because I think the select board wants to, I think is under some pressure to get some language so that it can go to town meeting. But basically in a nutshell, Andrew, Brian, me, Dustin, Neil, Jim O'Neill, Cindy Napoli, and Bill Brown hopped on a Zoom last Sunday just to have an informal discussion regarding the leash law. And so Cindy provided a summary about the concerns brought up at the select board. I think, you know, and then LCT brought up concerns. And of course, I'm sure some of you here have seen some of the heated discussions on social media regarding the leash law. And so there was just a, there you go. So just issues were identified and, you know, so there was, I think, some clarification. We agreed that some clarification was needed as far as, you know, control of dogs. And then Dustin brought up certain instances where there's wildlife or special habitat where you might not want dogs in the vicinity. And so the place where we landed was, you know, leaving, I thought we left more properties than that that were off leash. But basically designating some lands as off leash and some lands as on leash. And then if you were going to pass somebody, you needed to leash your dog while you pass the person and then take them off. It sounded to me like there was quite a bit of pressure at the select board meeting to just keep dogs on leash at all times. And those of us during the discussion felt as though it was beneficial for people and for dogs to have places where dogs can hike off leash. And so this, you know, so what you see in front of you is just some of the notes from the call. And it really was a discussion. The discussion is far from closed. The purpose of sharing it here was to, get more input from the commission. If anybody had anything else that they were concerned about, or felt that was, was missed, or, different concerns. And then it will come up as well at town meeting. But I thought, I think all of us, Andrew and Brian and I all, we thought it would be beneficial.
Where did the requirement for no more than 3 dogs come from?
So there was discussion. I haven't seen it, but I guess there's concern about professional dog walkers making a profit and creating a nuisance. So again, that's not something I've encountered, but Bill Brown indicated he had seen it. I know Jim as well, and some others, and Andrew, I think you too. And I don't know, Andrew, if you want to just add your thoughts.
So I've actually seen that as well. Actually, a couple of years ago, I was over at the Sarah Doublet Forest, and somebody opened up their van door and like 10 dogs jumped on me. It was like crazy. So, but yeah, so that was where that really came from, was, people walking more than 3 dogs tend to be professional dog walkers. So we're just looking to, address that with that particular provision, but it happens. I mean, it's out there.
But I mean, I guess professional dog walkers are needed. A lot of people need them. So I guess, is it kind of a random number? I mean, I would think we need some justification for limiting how many dogs.
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question, Anna. And one of the things that we had also talked about was, does a professional dog walker need like a land use permit, such as others who, and how do you, and we didn't really come up with any solution to that, but that was just kind of part of that discussion. And I don't know that, I agree. 3 dogs is perhaps arbitrary. I mean, I grew up with 5 dogs. I don't know that I would have walked all 5. They were Afghan hounds and it would have been a mess, but, so that's where that came from. Certainly happy to, take comments and pass them back. I mean, that's the purpose of sharing, the results of this very preliminary discussion. But the goal of the select board is to come to town meeting with revised clarity, because the COVID situation has created, a lot of concerns and a lot of confusion. And a lot of people don't know what at heel means. So definitely open to suggestions, if the commission has any.
I'm a little bit worried about number 5 as well.
We didn't discuss that one.
What?
We didn't discuss that one. I think that one, looks like.
When do you need comments by? Julie, when would you like comments by?
So the next steps, if you look down below, it says compare language with the existing bylaws, compare language with the cemetery, update the violations to coincide, and discuss with LPD. So those are all things that I believe Cindy and maybe LCT are going to do. I'm not aware of our involvement in that. Andrew, were you? But then the next is to present to LCT and Conscom. And so we'll have a crack at language.
Because the warrants, well, you have to reserve a place pretty soon for the warrants.
Yeah, I think it's early this year. It's like the end of September for language. So this will get run by us, but I wanted to basically share this information so that we could provide input.
I think we need to provide input. In fact, it's our property that we control, hypothetically. It seems.
Yep, for sure.
And I'm wondering how much of this may go away once the COVID virus thing quiets down or goes away, if it does. Hoping it goes away. But
I think you're going to have more dog walkers when people go back to work. The amount of people that have adopted dogs, those dogs are going to have anxiety because no one's going to be there to play with them. So then they're going to need dog walkers even more.
That is a great.
Back to, I mean, I can kind of attest to what I see people, what they can command. And I think it's very difficult to assume that any person can command in an open environment more than 3. I think that they could perhaps keep one on leash and, you know, maybe try and control the others. But I see people that can't even control 1, let alone 2.
Yeah.
So, and what Andrew experienced, a lot of us have experienced. And then we hear these really tragic situations where elderly people have been knocked down or people have been bitten. Yeah, it's quite scary.
I had, when I first moved to Littleton, I had a white German Shepherd, and she was perfectly friendly, but was not friendly if a dog off leash approached us.
Right.
And I had no idea what to expect and walked her at Prouty, and she ended up getting into this massive fight because someone's yelling down the trail, "My dog's friendly, don't worry." And I'm yelling back, "Well, my dog isn't." And she's on, so I just stopped taking her. So that was my, experience, and I'm, super sympathetic.
I would also say that if you're trying to say Neff is or isn't, that's not town property.
Right. No, I know it's not. And I think,
thanks for taking a stab at this. I think this is great.
Nice to have a designated area that people could let their dogs go.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I love the idea.
A long way back for one, that's large acreage up there, or Bumblebee Park, someplace where they can. But
I think Bumblebee, they said there's too many.
Possibility if it's outside of breeding season. Because Morgan's a great place to run around and pick up ticks. And Hartwell isn't on here.
Yeah.
Does the commission have any thoughts regarding, because I think, Sarah, I think you brought up a really good point regarding dog walking, and people do need dog walkers. Should we be, certifying them and giving them a permit or certifying them in some fashion? I know, Andrew, there was a mention about it being problematic granting a permit to a profit entity, and that opens a can of worms. And so we didn't really get anywhere.
There are towns, Julie, that they're not permitted on certain properties.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's important.
Where is this draft going to be posted that we can access for commenting?
It's the link is on the Conscom webpage for tonight's meeting, but I can also email it around. You got to mix here. The Smith property isn't town property either. It is going to be leash only, but it's not really a town regulation. That's SVT property.
Right, because SVT, my understanding is SVT just doesn't allow dogs, period. That was
right, but I don't know if it should be part of the town's requirements. It's just sort of
that's also a good point. Should we be putting properties on here that we don't substantially have control over?
SVT doesn't allow any dogs, so how are we allowing dogs on YAP if SVT holds the CR?
That's a good question.
Say no dogs. It's only if SVT actually owns the property.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So there's a subtle difference there.
Huge, but important one.
Okay.
The part of Hartwell that's behind the cemetery should maybe be at least leash only, if not no dogs. So there's a lot of wildlife up there, and very few people have found it, I think.
Yeah.
But it's cemetery property.
Is this a public document right now for review? I feel like there's a lot of
other than, I guess, via it being on our agenda.
Okay. Yeah, I would write like draft all over this.
Yeah.
Like get it stamped or something, because I could see this just being a challenge where it's really just in its kind of infancy for that list.
Yep.
I worry
No,
about.
it is very much in its infancy.
Right. But I do like the idea of just stamping draft on it.
Okay. I think that makes sense. Oh, and I guess one other thing that I wanted to mention too is that Bill Brown had brought up some old Conscom files and minutes from like 2012 and 2016, where I guess the leash law there was some work on the leash law, or I guess to point it in the direction of being more restrictive. So
yeah, for sure.
There was a little background.
But thank you for not putting me in charge of any kind of enforcement, because it's not going to happen.
I mean, we talked about enforcement too. I mean, if we're out there, we can say something, but I mean, really it's the police. And I mean, are we really going to have the police
Actually,
them through the woods?
The dog catcher.
Yeah.
I don't think people are going to do much about it. It's more the dog officer.
People are really looking for alternatives, though. I mean, this should be part of, sort of a policy shift where we're saying, okay, what's available for people out there, and sort of identifying that, and then really, working towards getting a town dog park. That's what it sounds like people need, and I like the idea of doing this, updating and all that, but also showing that there's some forethought here, that we want to work towards a solution that works for the entire town. And I don't know how about we go about doing that, but maybe one of those derelict properties out there that the selectmen have, like, oh look, that's a dog park,
I think it's interesting when we've heard today there's some towns in Massachusetts that have limited beach access to only their residents of their town. And so I envision that if this does spark out of control, Littleton could make it so dogs of Littleton ownership would only be permitted on certain properties.
Are you going to enforce that?
That's another.
It's enforced in other places for sure. Yep, like there's actually, like you have your dump sticker or your beach sticker. So, yeah.
A very powerful invisible fence.
With stickers on dogs.
So should comments maybe go to you, Julie, or what do you want to do with any comments people have?
Yeah, I can collect comments. That's fine. But I think they're moving pretty quickly. So if you have comments, like by Friday.
Is that really between 5 and 6? There's a one that doesn't have a number. That is a separate sentence, though.
That looks like a typo.
To worry, and what does that mean? To worry, a livestock.
You worry at something?
I have more of an issue with some coyotes right now than I do with the neighborhood dog.
With what?
Coyotes.
Oh, yeah.
We have one dog that's active. He sees one, he's right after it.
That's a good dog.
Unless he runs into a pack of them.
Right, that's true. All right, Amy, consider me off the meeting. I am departing. It's good to see you guys.
Hi, Sarah. Feel better.
Good night.
Good night.
Sarah.
Good, Sarah.
Bye, Sarah.
Oh, just two other quick things. Oak Hill, we got a great picture from Kyle of some erosion that's going down the road from there. So
if it's a great picture, it's a worse picture.
Buried in it. Maybe she's really short.
Are you talking about the light and water access?
Yes. Yeah. No, I don't.
We keep getting billed for that, maintaining it.
Did it pop up? So it's like this from the parking area up through everywhere, up through this access road, pretty much to the water tank.
That's a good one for perspective.
Yeah, that's why I took it, because I took some pictures with just my phone, and they didn't show it nearly as well as her standing in it did. That was the worst area, but it's
so
in the middle of the access path.
Where all that stone went, but I can also call the water department about fixing it. But in the recent past, at least since Davos has left, they've basically been saying, since we get the money from the cell tower receipts, that Conscom should pay for the expenses, they will do the work. And that's where we were, I don't know, last fall or whatever, when we.
What did it cost us last time? Do you know, Amy? It was something like $2,000 or $3,000, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was something like that. I have it as a placeholder in the budget. Like this might be more. Pointed out, they should also do it right, so there's water bars through there, so this doesn't happen again.
It almost seems like it ought to get blacktopped, just to stabilize it. I think we've tried to put some diversion stuff in there to divert the water someplace else. I don't know if it's ever paid off completely.
Yeah, I don't think those are still in place if they were.
But if we paved that whole driveway, we would need some serious culverts on the sides, also reinforced, because yeah.
Also, paving is hugely expensive, isn't it?
Yeah. You have to redo the
More
thing.
than we've budgeted.
Yeah, but how many more times do you want to be paying to fix the driveway?
Well, I think fixing the driveway repeatedly might even be less expensive than paving, maybe, because you also have to maintain pavement.
True.
Well, and you'd need the stormwater infrastructure too for the paving. It's not just the paving.
But is there any diversionary things they could put there to kind of have the water go off to the side or something, rather than down the driveway?
Yeah, I think gravel road, forestry road construction would have a water bar, so the water's running down, it's going to hit the bar, slow down, put to the side, and then you kind of keep going. But I think if the water department's having someone do the work, we need to make it's clear who's paying for what, and that whoever's doing it knows what they're doing.
Would it pay to see if we can't get an opinion from the highway superintendent? See if he would give some sort of input to it as to what might work.
Good idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
It seems like not a very good argument to say that if we get money from the cell tower, we should pay for the maintenance, because if it was our choice, we wouldn't have a road. I mean, they need the road, and they, it seems like.
I brought up last fall when we were going over Amy's budget. It's the first time I was exposed to it being on the board.
I think
for this, and
you
it
would
just blew up.
find that it's a lot of ledge up there, and they just cap it with gravel to kind of smooth it out. But I think my recollection is there's quite a bit of ledge. It's just the gravel sits on top of, going up and around there.
I mean, no matter where they were going to, if they needed to access the tower and they had a road up to the tower, normally it would be their expense to maintain it. I just don't know.
Oh, the water tower's up there too.
Like Newtown Hill, that's their road.
I know, but even if it was on a different hill, they'd have to maintain a road up to it. That's just the way it is when you have a.
Well, we could tell them we're gonna sod it instead, because we don't want it to erode. We're like, we don't need the road. We'll just put sod on it. Is that for teamwork?
Now, how often do they go up there to service their water tower?
No idea.
I think it would be reasonably frequently. Check on it.
Longer, definitely over a week, because the photo I took was just over probably a week from the storms that we had. And I mean, this had been there for a while. This was dried out and everything. But I imagine this was from the heavy rains that we had recently, the one big storm.
We had
Can they drive up there?
3 inches.
I don't think they could drive up there right now, actually. Well, so that's even worse. If it came from the 3 inches that we got a couple weeks ago, then it's been like this for over 2 weeks. I don't think they could. There's areas where this is. I mean, I guess they might be able to either traverse it, put the axles on either side of it, or maybe get it on either side. But I don't know that driving a vehicle up there is very feasible right now in some areas.
Now, are the cell towers on? Is it on the actual water tower, or is it a separate tower?
I think it's on the water tower, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on the tower, on the water tower. Yeah.
Oh, so they that I guess that's one argument, is that since they have the water tower and the cell tower, if the cell tower is off of the water tower, I guess that would involve us somewhat in that they are offering their their water tower to support the cell tower that we're getting money from. So.
I don't think that's true. I just pulled up an area. The cell tower's off to the side of the.
But we gave them quite a
same area.
They had to do a land swap in order to get that tower up, get the new water tank up there. They ended up buying up some of the Cobb property, I think, because of it. When because they only had a very small spot up there at one point.
Well, I don't know if Jim, maybe you remember, has the water department always been charging the Conscom for the graveling? Or that's pretty new. I think it was a total shock.
I think it's probably within the last 20 years, but there again, we hadn't had cell towers that long either. Well, longer than you think. I think it came about with a cell tower. They figured they could start charging us for the roadway.
I began in 2012, and I thought that soon after that, we got our first bill. Wasn't it a surprise? I mean, it was fairly recently that they started billing us.
It was very recent. It was after Sabas left as general manager of the Light and Water that we started receiving them. There was like a policy change over there, and instead of them paying for it, the bill got forwarded.
Started making us pay for the garden water.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, I will talk to them. I'll talk to Chris, and I'm sure this will come back.
Okay.
All right.
Is there anything?
More just that it should get done soon, because there's even when Friday evening, there's a lot of people still going up and down that in the evening hours. So I can't even imagine what it's like on the weekend afternoon.
Have you brought town council into this issue at all?
Not yet, certainly. No.
Maybe if we've already paid for one, we might be going down a difficult road to refuse another payment. But I would think that this is a legal matter. I would think, who pays for maintenance of that road.
Do we pay? We don't pay anything for Newtown Hill.
Nope.
Cell towers up there and the water towers up there.
That's their property, I think. I'm not sure about the driveway. The water tank is on there. It's a little excluded square.
Yeah. But I don't think we have to pay for the maintenance of the driveway going up there.
No. Or I'll put it this way, they've never asked me.
Well, that one's blacktop, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
The only other thing I had was at Mary Shepherd. This is number 9 Mary Shepherd, and this is number 8. They did a big clearing in here, which isn't even on their property. So I'm just going to kind of work with them and see what we can figure out. I haven't actually spoken with her, but she said she cleared it because she's got 2 new drivers and they can't see around here. So they cleared the whole thing.
It's a cul-de-sac. There's no traffic.
There's like a few more houses going that way, but yeah. And it's not even their property. Guys did some landscaping along here, maybe not such a big deal. It seems like they've been mowing back here. I couldn't get back there. And again, that's our property also. If I go back in time when the houses were built, it was sort of a field or something. And it almost looked like they're using his lawn, but I'm not quite sure. So I'll be talking to those guys and see what happened.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
The woman down here in the riverfront area threw them under the bus and called me about it.
Oh, no.
Fine. But we've also been talking about looping the Mary Shepherd Trail through here if we can, which would be fantastic if we can snake it through there. It's a little wet and weedy. Well, it's not weedy anymore through some of this. So Joe and Neil and I might try to walk that this fall when the vegetation is down.
Well, if it's ever going to be drier, it'll be dry now.
That's for sure. And that was all I had.
Okay. Anybody else? Andrew, you want to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second. Julie.
I should do a roll call. Cal Melberg, aye. James Pickard.
James Pickett, aye.
Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Brian Crowley.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Julie Rupp.
Julie Rupp, aye.
Andrew Smarco.
Andrew Smarco, aye.
And Sarah's left.
Sarah's gone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Night, everybody.
Stay healthy, everybody.
Yeah.
You too, Jim.
Take care.